Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 452. This is your guide to the geek side, and I am your only host for this episode, Todd Oxtra. I am dwelling in the beautiful city of Savage, Minnesota, getting ready to go and enjoy a Thanksgiving break with my family. With that, though, I want to send a message of warming embrace and healing to Charlie, who unfortunately just got the COVID for the first time. So, 3 year streak is ended, and Charlie is recovering. So, this is going to be a little bit different of an episode. So, it'll just be me solo riffing on the news and then giving a little bit about what I'm interested in the Geek Easy. And that's going to be it for this episode. So, hopefully, you enjoy it. And it's a little bit different. I've only done this once before, but we'll see how this goes. If you want more of these one offs, we'll see if this happens. But then at this point, I think it's on with the show. So, Charlie, get better. And now it's time for us to thank our Patreons, our Secret Friends Squad. Just as a note, folks, with Patreon, you got a lot of great benefits. Not only do you get exclusive Patreon content, first, you also get all of our episodes without ads. So join our Patreon, just like our awesome friends with benefits, Corey and HD, John's Dorf, Phoenix Sisters Cosplay, and Brendan Myers. Also, our BFFs, Sean, Stella, and Henry Nias, Missy Merchant, and Andy Milliken. Thank you so much. And we just released, a more recent episode of The Spinner Rack. Charlie just released an episode of The Facts of Geek Life, all about Daria, that 90s animated classic from MTV. So check those out. And also, Mark just dropped a great interview with Timothy Zahn on Patreon. So check that out. If you're interested, you get a 1-week free trial on Patreon. And then if you enjoy it, stick around. We'd love to have you. So with that, it's got time to get into one of our favorite parts of the show, which is we got this covered. So we look back at a cover that graces the same episode number as our show. Obviously, most comics don't go up to 452. So we picked number 52. We kind of restarted with numbers. We'll probably do it again when we hit 500, go back to 1. So this issue that I wanted to hit on was Transformers. So it's hard to believe that Transformers still had a comic book in 1989. I know I was huge into the series, debuted in 1984. There was a comic book, there was an animated series, a movie, and the toy line. And I really got out of it, toys, when probably, I hit junior high. That was probably where I finally said, gotta grow up, chase girls, do those type of things. So it's really interesting to see where Transformers went, because the toy line really dropped off after G1. They did some different things, but it really wasn't successful after that. So we've got this cover for Transformers number 52. It is called Menace of the Mechanibals. And you've got this poor Autobot Decepticon, doesn't show his symbol on the screen. This is from May 1st, 1989. And these, basically, they're in a web. They look like spiders, the robots, and apparently there are cannibal robots. Didn't know that happened. It's a thing. I don't know if they want their juicy metal. I don't know if they like their fluids. I don't even know, like, do Autobots have like transmission fluid in their veins, oil? I know they run on energon, so I'm not sure what's that like to drink, but maybe that's what the Mechanibals live off of. But man, oh man, they are horrific. And I don't know if they were ever, I mean, I believe the cartoon was already off the air after like 3 seasons, so don't know if they touched on this. And I know this comic book went to like issue 80, so almost 3 more years, which at that point I'm like, I don't even know what they're covering. So I know some people are big fans of the old Transformers comic, but really I probably dropped the series after like 12 or 13 issues, because it just it didn't follow the show. And the toys after that were kind of like it just didn't feel like it was hitting me where I lived. So Transformers number 52, This is once again another licensed comic that I don't know where this lives. Maybe somebody's reprinted it, but it was under Marvel, and they don't own the Transformers license. Currently, it's at Image. That great new series. Robert Kirkman brought it out with Void Rivals, and they've also got the new GI Joe series. So check that out with Skybound. They've got some new good stuff. So if you're interested, see if you can dig one of these up from a dime bin or a nickel bin, and check out Transformers 52. Watch out for those mechanibals, though. They're kind of gross. So, with that, it's time for us to move on from our great cover onto our gal pal, our senior news correspondent. So, without further delay, Madam Webb, take it away.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Oh, Madam Webb, I know Thanksgiving is one of your favorite holidays. You break out your Pilgrim costume, which is actually what you wore actually at Plymouth Rock because you were there. You tried to trade some of land for poisoned blankets. You were thrown out of the country, and you were essentially persona non grata with the Native Americans today. But you know, Madam Webb, I still think there's time to ask for forgiveness and be thankful for where you are today, which is our news correspondent. So thank you, Madam Webb. Have a great Thanksgiving. And myself, I'm going to be hanging out with my family in Michigan. It's going to be a great time. And I can't wait for that great food, the camaraderie, and watch the Lions actually be a good team this year. So with that, we get into the news stories this week. The first one is a trailer we didn't actually cover. It was a few weeks ago, and that is the Ghostbusters has a new film, The Frozen Empire, which quite honestly, I forgot this movie was coming. I don't know if it actually changed its release date, but it's going to be coming out March 29th, 2024. Essentially, we're picking up where we left off with the cast. We're going to be involving, once again, classic Ghostbusters. We're going to have uh, Winston Sedmore is going to be in this movie. It's going to be in New York, which is going to be kind of fun. Going back to New York, the first two movies were in New York. I believe the reboot with the female Ghostbusters was also in New York. So it's getting back to the heart of Ghostbusters, which is New York. They're probably going to be going back to the headquarters, and they've added some new actors to this, including the cast from the last film, and that's going to be Patton Oswalt and also Camille Nanjiani. We don't know what role Camille will be doing, but it looks like Patton is going to be kind of a geek, kind of probably an underling of Dan Aykroyd in his magic shop or his mystical shop that he has in New York. So it looks like Bill Murray is still going to be involved, which is surprising because that guy doesn't like to be involved in these type of projects, but he's going to be. So this is going to be, the three main Ghostbusters are going to be back. But once again, it's the heart of this film is now the new family, and they are full on Ghostbusters. They're headed back to New York. Not sure what's going to drive them there, but I'm guessing it's going to be the fact that there is now going to be a threat for the Ghostbusters, and it involves ice, which is kind of cool. We haven't had that before, and apparently they're saying this new threat essentially scares you to death, and that is a interesting viewpoint when it comes to spirits. Typically the Ghostbusters have been kind of scary but also spooky, not always scary. And this one looks like they're going to lean into the more horror, but the frozen elements are kind of cool. They show spikes of ice coming up from the ground. They basically show some characters freezing to death, and apparently this movie is inspired by the real Ghostbusters, which was a great take on the animated take in an animated series back in the day. It was syndicated. It was basically picking up after Ghostbusters 1 and continued to tell stories with the characters, different voice actors, of course, but every episode was a monster of the week, a different type of threat, which is very cool because there were some really good episodes. The funny part about it was they introduced a character named Sam Hain, which they got the name wrong, but it was Samhain. Basically, it's the spirit of Halloween based on a pagan holiday. And they created basically a pumpkin head type villain, which I thought was funny because they called him Samhain. Samhain. They got the pronunciation wrong. But that's kind of cool that they're going to be looking and taking into account other elements of Ghostbusters, because there's been comics, there's been obviously video games, things like that. So I'm very excited about this, that it's going to, taking in other elements, and it's probably going to have to step out of the pop culture fan service we've had with Ghostbusters. It needs to do some new things because you can only hit on some of those classic bits so many times. It just feels like you're repeating the same story beats. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, you can only hit that so many times. So I'm hoping they're going to hit some new beats. It looks like that's what they're going for. So this should be pretty good. This is March 29th, 2024. So once again, I don't know if this was delayed or if this is the date it was always going to be releasing, but it's great to get some new movies after, the strike and everything being delayed. So Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. I'm looking forward to this. So that is not only our first trailer, we've also got a new trailer for Madam Webb, that movie from Sony, and their cinematic picture group of Spider-Man characters that typically don't include Spider-Man, which is so weird. We've had Venom, obviously, 2 movies there, financially successful, not critically so. Also Morbius, less to say about Morbius, the better. But we are getting a new movie. We obviously have Craven coming out too, which we saw that trailer. We talked about that previously. But now we have a Madam Web trailer. And, obviously Madam Web is our news correspondent, and she's our sweetheart. And but this is a different form of Madam Web. This is like a new take on Madam Web, not an elderly woman that is a clairvoyant who just sits in a chair and tells Peter Parker what to do. Essentially, we are getting Cassie Webb, who is our main character of this film, who is clairvoyant and can see something happening before it happens. And essentially, she tries to change things so they don't go the way she sees them. She's a paramedic along with Adam Scott. And in this film, we find out that her mother died specifically in the Amazon investigating spiders. And she finds out about the potential killer of her mother, as she has basically an introduction to Ezekiel. Gonna get his name right. Ezekiel Sims, who looks like Spider-Man in this trailer. Kind of not a great costume. Apparently tries to kill her and 3 other women, and the 3 women are part of the Spider-Verse, essentially. We've got Dakota Johnson playing Cassie Webb, so Madam Webb herself. She has clairvoyant abilities. We got Sydney Sweeney playing Julia Carpenter, who has also been Spider-Woman in the films. She's the one that wears the black and white costume, if you're familiar with that version of Spider-Woman. We have Celeste O'Connor, Maddie Franklin, Spider-Woman, another version of Spider-Woman that I'm not familiar with. The Charlie would be more helpful with this than I would, but we'll probably get his opinion on this when he turns back. Then we've got Isabel Merced as Anya Corazon, as Aranya, who's basically a Spanish-themed or a Latina version of Spider-Woman. And then we've also got Tahar Rahim playing Ezekiel Sims. And if I remember Ezekiel Sims, he is a character that was part of Moreland and different spider totems that were taking the life of spiders and sucking them up as part of a kind of a Spider-Verse thing. Don't know as much about this, but we did get this trailer, and this definitely feels like the CW version of the MCU. Doesn't look great. A lot of goofy reactions to this so far, with the note about her mom dying in Amazon looking for spiders, and I'm not sure where this is going to go. I assume it says this is going to be a standalone film. Don't know if it will tie into Craven, but I think that's what Sony's building to. They're building to a combined universe of these characters, so they can keep this going. So I don't know if this is going to work. A female helmed Spider-Man film. This will be the first one we're getting with characters, but Spider-Man not being involved still just feels like a huge miss. I'm not sure we're going to see, if we're going to see Spider-Man ever in these films, but it would just make sense. But as of right now, we don't even know we're getting Spider-Man back in the MCU. So at this point, we're getting this film February 16th, 2024. I will probably see it. I saw Morbius. I saw Venom. I will probably see this too. It's goofy, dumb fun at best or at worst. And if it's decent, and hopefully it's written well, hopefully it will be. But unfortunately, Avi Arad is involved in this again. Not great. And we are getting essentially it's going to be S.J. Clarkson is going to be the director. S.J. Clarkson at this point has directed a lot of television, but no movies. So I don't know. I mean, did episodes of Succession, Collateral, Jessica Jones. So, maybe that's a benefit that she has done some superheroes, but we'll see how this goes. I'm not optimistic, but keeping the bar low has always helped me. So we'll see how Madam Web goes. And Madam Web, I guess for our own correspondence, good. Hopefully this movie does well, and she'll get some maybe residuals from it, or maybe she'll get a cameo. That'd be even better. So at that point, we get another trailer, and this is for What If Season 2. This is debuting December 22nd, 2023. This is the follow-up to the first season of What If on Disney+. I was a big fan of the first season of What If. Some episodes were good, some more episodes were really good, and some episodes were so-so, but I love the art style. I really would love to see Marvel do more with this. I'd also love to see Star Wars maybe dabble with this art style. It's really cool. It's not photorealistic, but it definitely embraces what the actors look like, but also is very highly stylized. I think it's well animated from an action standpoint. So we are getting this December 22nd, like I said. And the interesting part is it's 9 parts. And with 9 parts, it's actually dropping an episode every day. This is different than anybody else has ever done. Some people have done, everything drop at once. Some people do drop a couple episodes and then do weekly releases. Some do weekly releases. Well, this one is doing daily releases. So I'm assuming these episodes will be like 20 to 30 minutes long, which is perfect. And I think this could be a good way to keep people checking in. And I hope people will. The episodes, we talked about what the episodes would be previously, but I'll just drop them down, what they're going to be, the name of the episodes. So we've got What If Gamora Killed Thanos? So once again, dealing into that alternate reality, what would have things have been like if Gamora had killed Thanos. Not sure when she would have killed him, but if it had been that point when she tried to kill him, right in Infinity War, maybe it would have been a very different experience. Then there's What If Captain Carter finds Hydra Stomper, which would be interesting to see that. And what I found out from the casting, not all of the MCU actors are going to be voicing these characters. Some will, some won't. Captain America will not be voiced by Chris Evans. And that's a continuation from season 1 is the Hydra Stomper piece. Because Captain Carter was really a standout of this series. And then What If the Tesseract landed in the Haudenosaunee Confederacy before the colonization of America? And this is set in the past, and it's with the Native American tribe, and it's the introduction of the new hero Kahori. And this is basically dealing with what if it landed there and a Native American found it. So that's kind of cool. And because of the time frame, you could have threats from different time frames landing on Earth. So I like the fact that we're getting introduced to a new character, which is, I think, a cool idea with What If. We're also getting What If Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne fought the Red Guardian during 1980s. That's kind of cool. And you do get some voice actors here that I don't believe that we're going to get the same voice actors from those roles in it, but it looks kind of cool. So I'm very excited. It looks like Michael Douglas will be Hank Pym. So this could be a lot of fun, having a throwback of Red Guardian in his prime. And then What If Yondu delivered Star-Lord to Ego? So this is going to be about basically Star-Lord as a child with powers and being led by Ego. So that could be interesting as well. What If Happy Hogan Saved Christmas? They showed this. It's Happy Hogan. It's got the girl from Thor. I can't remember her name. It looks like it's going to be a fun, like, Die Hard knockoff, which I think is fun. Then we've got What If Wanda had grown up watching musicals instead of sitcoms? So WandaVision shift. So musicals are hit and miss in the genre world. So we'll see if that nails it. But that could be fun. What if Odin and Hela had faced Wen Wu? So kind of a team up between gods that we really haven't seen, taking on Wen Wu as the basically the villain of Shang-Chi. So that could be cool as well. And then What If the Avengers had fought Surtur? So getting more involved with Ragnarok. So I like this. I think we're hitting a lot of cool story beats. Hopefully there'll be some wins out of this. And I hope this isn't the end of What If, but considering where Marvel is consolidation, it might be, but I want more animation from Marvel. So moving on to non-trailer news, and this is the fact of like we're talking about where Marvel is headed, and essentially we are getting a change in Marvel's directors. So Destin Daniel Cretton was supposed to direct Avengers Kang Dynasty. He is no longer doing that. He is going to, though, focus on Wonder Man, Shang-Chi 2, and more in the MCU. So one of the big things we've been talking about, we've been wondering is when we'll see Shang-Chi again. We really haven't. And his sequel, I mean, he had post-Endgame, he's probably his most successful sequel or movie post-Endgame. And just people want him. People like Simu Liu. And the fact that he's not been around is kind of frustrating, and we don't know when we would see him. But the fact if Daniel Cretton is gonna be involved in that, that would be pretty cool to make sure that movie does happen. But the fact is, the writing is on the wall on Avengers: Kang Dynasty. The fact that they're losing the director, and that movie is supposed to come out May 1st, 2026. I mean, it's still far away. So we could have a shift, a different director could come on. But I mean, if you read the writing on the wall with the current state of the MCU, are people excited about Kang, performance of the Marvels? It sounds like there's going to be a shift. And especially as we're hearing noise about certain castings, about certain things coming up, we could see this Avengers movie change direction. And it wouldn't be the first time we saw Marvel pivot. So if this does happen, and we get some of these projects earlier, like Shang-Chi 2, which would be great, doesn't have a release date, and Wonder Man. Wonder Man is one of Charlie's favorite characters from the West Coast Avengers era. And that was supposed to be part of the that pivot to Marvel to do what they're basically calling their showcase films or their side projects, which is under the banner of certain things, which we have Echo being in that Marvel showcase. So if we see Wonder Man being that type of showcase, kind of a spin-off, a one-off, that could be fun as well. Having those things, and maybe if people like Wonder Man, he shows up in something else. So we'll see how this goes. But at this point, we hope we see Shang-Chi earlier rather than later. And Wonder Man could be a ton of fun. And quite honestly, I don't think you have to rush the Avengers back. I think we know we're going to get the Young Avengers, and I'm not sure if that's who is going to be the Avengers in quotes, or if it will be known as Young Avengers, and this Avengers will be like She-Hulk, it'll be Thor, it'll be Ant-Man, and characters like that in Shang-Chi. So we'll see. But at this point, I think we're going to see more and more of these type of announcements, especially as Disney is now post-strike. They're going to be making some announcements and also pivoting to more profitable and probably less quantity and more quality Marvel releases. And then lastly, we are getting some casting news. And most of these aren't casting news. They're more like things that have leaked that have not been officially confirmed, but we think they are going to happen. And that is, first, Pedro Pascal is now basically rumored to be playing Reed Richards in Fantastic Four. This was not on anybody's radar. Pedro Pascal, while he is tied to so many cool franchises, Game of Thrones, he died quickly there. We had him in Mando. He barely saw his face. I think we saw his face once or twice. And at that point, I don't think we'll ever see his face again, because I think at most he will only voice Mando, not portray him in the armor. We also have him in The Last of Us. And we know, if you're a fan of The Last of Us, you know that certain things happen that he will have some free time later. And then he was also the unbearable weight of massive talent, and he was playing a very comedic role. He's also been on SNL. He's been very good in that too. He is 48 years old. And the past Reed Richards was not old when he debuted in the comics, but we all look at him now with the grade sides. He's a dad, and he does seem older. And he's also a Latino. We've never had a non-white version of Reed Richards, even in any of the incarnations of the movies. So I love Pedro. I think he's awesome. Uh, he's a very flexible actor. He can do a lot of things. He can do funny. He can do serious. So I think this would be a good take. I know they were really looking to have Adam Driver be Reed Richards. But who knows? I think this would be a great direction to get a good actor first for the role, and I think he could do a great job with it. We don't know any other casting yet for this movie. This is a 2025 release for Fantastic Four, so we're going to start hearing more about this sooner than later. But we don't know who's writing this film, but we do know that Matt Shakman is going to be directing it, and he is, I think, a good choice for that movie. So, along with Pedro Pascal, we had a leak of of our Marvel role that I actually didn't know was going to happen, and that role is the Sentry. So the Sentry is a unique character in Marvel where it was kind of a ploy. So they said Marvel was going to reintroduce a forgotten hero that Stan Lee created many years ago that was never developed. And that character was named the Sentry. He was essentially like Marvel's Superman, a blue and yellow costume, super powerful. And he was introduced in a standalone book back in 2000. And the funny thing was that didn't actually happen. It was just a ploy to reintroduce this character out of the blue. Essentially, no one remembered him, and that was one of the ploys. Sentry had has had a rocky career in comics. Essentially, he is a broken hero. His powers, he's essentially unlimited power, but he has mental health issues driven by this dark force in his brain that he thinks is trying to kill him. Whether it is or not, we don't really know. And he's a complex character. And he's been in Marvel multiple times, been brought in kind of as the heavy hitter, but he's very unreliable, and you never know who's going to manipulate him or if he'll be used. So he's an interesting character. And quite honestly, I don't know how he fits in with the MCU, but he could be a Deus Ex Machina, kind of like a thing to search out for, a weapon that's going to be used by a villain. It has to be stopped. So apparently, getting back to the rumor news on the Sentry is the fact that Robert Kirkman doing an interview with an illustrator, they were just having this interview, and he dropped the news because that Stephen Young, if you know him, he played Glenn on The Walking Dead. He's also Invincible in the animated series. They're very close, Robert Kirkman and Stephen Young, and he essentially dropped that Stephen Young is going to be the role of Sentry. And he says, I don't know if I should be saying this. I'll probably get in trouble. He goes, oh, wait, I don't work for Marvel. I can say whatever I want. Very true. But that would be hilarious. And Stephen Yeun would probably be the one gets in trouble because he told him that role. But that would be very interesting. The thought that Sentry is apparently going to be introduced in Thunderbolts. And that may make sense where that's the mission of the Thunderbolts is to maybe find out that a villain or someone bad, like a resurfaced Hydra, whoever the villain is that has unsurfaced or found Sentry, is going to use them for bad. That could be their mission, kind of like the Suicide Squad. We thought that eventually they would have a mission to take down a bad guy. This could make sense for the Thunderbolts, a team of pseudo bad guys hunting down a weapon in the to do something good. So we'll see if this is where they're going to go. But I like Stephen Yeun quite a bit. Interesting pick for Sentry though, because Sentry, I don't have anybody in my mind who would be a good Sentry. Very unhinged. I mean, and maybe you could say maybe it's a character we've seen before. I think of like him as like an Omni-Man or a character like that, super powerful, that a little unhinged, but we'll see. So this we'll probably find out. Thunderbolts is coming out, I believe, in 2024 December. So we're gonna start hearing more about this movie pretty soon because we're getting into 2024 very soon. So that is it for the news. So hopefully you enjoy that quick spin. Obviously, no one else got their opinion except for me. And so when Charlie returns, we're probably going to talk a little bit more about some of these stories, get his quick takes on some of these and see what he thinks. So that is it for the news. Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencaster. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencaster is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution, provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencaster because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencaster has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencaster? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. Log in using your browser and start recording a high quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencaster's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencaster's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencaster.com/SFU and use our code SFU, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experience I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover bands playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. Well, I am at least. And this week, I want to talk about something that's very special in my heart that just launched on Netflix, and that's Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Scott Pilgrim is a very cool experimentation on comic book format. It's really inspired by manga. If you check it out, it's a very simple story about Scott Pilgrim, who's kind of a loser, is in a band, and he doesn't have much going for himself. But he ends up dreaming of a girl. He wakes up and he says, "I just can't believe I've seen the woman of my dreams, and she's really in his dreams." He goes to a party the next day, and he actually sees the woman of his dreams, and that's Ramona Flowers, and she's beautiful, and he strikes up conversation with her. But Scott doesn't know the fact that forming a relationship with Ramona Flowers will require him to essentially fight off all of her ex-boyfriends. And that's where this series picks up. It gets off the rails. It's combining essentially video games, anime, fun punk music inspired by video games, and I love it. It's really great. So I read the essentially they're kind of like manga in a way. They're black and white volumes, and I believe there's 7 of those. And that was then adapted into a film by Edgar Wright, which I absolutely loved. The casting was amazing, and the way they adapted it was awesome. Became kind of a cult film, didn't do well at the box office. Then they created a video game by Ubisoft. Actually, did it. It was a wonderful video game, beat 'em up, classic beat 'em up. Think of like the X-Men game, and that was highly loved. Then you couldn't find it, and then they re-released it. So that's out there now if you want to pick that up. It's really, really well done. Great music, great beat 'em up. Really enjoy that. And then we got the news, and they've also colorized the manga or the graphic novels, and now that's available in color form too. And now it's kind of weird. It's kind of gone full circle. The cult movie becomes like it gets a following, and then it gets a undercurrent of like, hey, we want more of this. And so Netflix has adapted Scott Pilgrim in conjunction with Brian Lee O'Malley, the creator, and they have created it basically an anime of Scott Pilgrim. It's called Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, and it's 8 parts. Dropped on Netflix on Friday. I watched 2 episodes so far, and it's wonderful. Completely honors the art style of the graphic novel. It's beautiful animation. And the coolest part is they brought back all the voice actors from the movie. Michael Cera, Chris Evans, lots of great voice talent. It's really wonderful. And the first 2 episodes are great. I just love it. They are all in, having a great time. The music rocks. The animation style is wonderful. And I'm just digging it. So if you're curious about it, the cool thing about Scott Pilgrim is each version you can appreciate on its own. If you just want to read it, it's great. But if you have read it, I think there's something to take away from all of the different variations in the interpretation. They basically leverage the art form in a very effective way. So I definitely recommend Scott Pilgrim, whatever way you take it. And then if you enjoy the anime, read the books, watch the movie, play the game, vice versa. If you start with the anime, or if you start with the movie, read the books. So check out Scott Pilgrim. It's really great, really fun. He's not the hero you want, but he definitely is the lovable loser you root for. So check out Scott Pilgrim. One more thing I want to hit on today, and because Charlie's not here, I can talk about video games a little bit. Just want to let everyone know that if you're into video games and you want to hear me talk about them, check out Co-op Mode. I do that with Mark Caravan. That is over on the Secret Friends Unite network feed if you want to get it there, or you just get that individual show as well. And I've just been deep diving into video games lately. It's that time of the year, the time to really lean into all the games before Game of the Year is announced, because we've got the Game Awards coming up, I believe December 7th. And at this point, there's really only one big game left, and that's the Avatar game. So that's going to be coming out like December 7th as well. So that will miss the Game of the Year awards cutoff. But at that point, I'm really focusing on a couple of games to finish before year end. Alan Wake 2, which I love. It's basically Stephen King brought to video game form. You play the author. It's a sequel to the first game, and this one's kind of cool because you play 2 different characters. You play Saga, who is essentially an FBI agent who's a profiler. She's investigating a murder, and Alan Wake is essentially brought back from where he ended in the last film, which was essentially in the Dark Void, writing novels to save himself and get himself out of the Dark Void, and he's brought back. And essentially, you've got this cult that is essentially basing their lives around Alan Wake's novels. And then you've got a unique thing where they took the actor, Sam Lake, who's also a developer at Remedy, who's also involved playing a character, Alex Casey, who's a investigator, who's also the main character of Alan Wake's books. It's very meta. It's very cool. This game does a lot of cool things with using the media of like film. So there's also little live action elements like in a talk show, and they use the real actors who play them in the game with their likenesses, and they look just like them. So it's very cool. So but I love it. It's very much scarier than the first film. It's more of a survival horror film, limited inventory, and it has jump scares like you wouldn't believe. So I'm excited to finish Alan Wake and get that done before the end of the year. I also I'm getting Super Mario Brothers RPG. Excited about that because I've never played it. It's a classic. I'm also playing Mario Wonder, which is a great 2D Mario platformer. And I did play Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, and it feels like a cash-in, limited amount of time to develop. One of the worst single player campaigns they've ever made. The zombies, it just doesn't feel good. It feels like they're trying to do open world in like a war zone, and it just feels sparse and doesn't feel satisfying the old way the zombies did. And I didn't touch the main multiplayer. So that's kind of like my gaming update that I wanted to just touch on, because I haven't been watching and reading a lot of stuff because I've been playing a lot of games. So I just thought I'd be honest and tell you where I'm spending my time. So hopefully that keeps you up to speed. And that's essentially it for our show this week. It's a shorter episode, and we'll be back, though, in a couple weeks after Thanksgiving. Recharge Charlie will be healthier and will be recovered, and we'll talk about all the nerdy stuff that you can look forward to. So with that, you can find me at Toxtra on Threads and Twitter, at Secret Friends Unite on Threads, and at Secret Friends U on Twitter as well. And then just go to secretfriendsunite.com, check out our Patreon. Thank you so much for checking us out. Check out all the podcasts on Secret Friends Unite. We do some awesome things about Star Trek with Code 47. We do Holocron Chronicles with Star Wars and video games at co-op mode. So with that, folks, I'll tell you, be the hero, not the villain.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.